Loading. Good morning, guys. Luxury items, do they hold their value, and is it the same with property? Give us a moment and we'll discuss what our thoughts are in just a sec. Where's the thing, Mark?
Rookie, mate. Rookie.
Why don't we just get straight into it then?
Yeah, I might as well. So the interesting thing with property is people always think that the traditional suburbs that are luxury do really well, and they think the suburbs that are less desirable price-wise don't do well. And this morning was a little bit about introducing that into looking at almost the scientific side of it, the dollars and cents side of it, the analytical side of it, I should say, rather than that emotional side of it. Because emotionally, you sort of often think, yeah, well, of course, your Manly's going to do better, your Double Bay is going to do better, your Wallara is going to do better. It's going to do better than your Fairfield. It's going to do better than your Penrith. It's going to do better than, maybe your DY or, whatever. Not associating those suburbs, well, not likening those suburbs to each other, but I'm just saying more when the median price is really high, you sort of naturally think that, okay, well, that's going to be a kick-ass of a suburb. I'll never be able to to afford to buy in there. But to make money, do you really want to afford to buy in there? Does it actually do well? So let's run through those sort of numbers now, because we had an example this morning. I guess a live example would be the one you just had, we were just talking about before. Can you bring that up and just show us the photos of that puppy?
Yeah, sure.
Now, while you're doing that, I'll just explain to people what you normally expect out of property is you normally expect property to double every 10 years. And if it's not doing that, it's sort of below par, it's below what everyone else is doing. So have a look at this house here. That's a great photo, that aerial photo. So you've got beautiful home inside, a belting big home. It's on a lot of acres. It's sitting up in Belrose there, which is actually on the northern beaches. An absolutely stunning home. So guys, when you see this, and I like this as an example because this home actually hasn't changed a lot. So I can't give you an example where there's a 5-acre block with no house 20 years ago, and then there's a 5-acre block with monster house, because they would have spent a couple $1 million building a house. I like this because the house has had improvements by the look of it, but definitely not, the base structure was there. All right, so let's bring up our RP data on this one, guys. Sure. Really interesting. And I can give you example after example after example.
All right, RP data is ready. Okay.
All right, let's look at this.
So let me just get this bigger. So this property was initially purchased in '92 for $1.62 million. So on that trend of idyllically doubling, this property sold for $8 million in 2020, end of 2020, Mark. 7 months ago, July 2020. So that one really should have been going into a whole new stratosphere if you think about that sort of trend continuing. But it goes to show that luxury side of the market isn't necessarily gaining that extra value. It's actually depreciating. Of course, it's going to with time, but it's for an estate like that, you'd think it would sort of hold its value a little bit stronger and continue to move, right?
Well, holding its value, it's that growth, and holding value where you're really behind the 8 ball. If you've held value, you're zero. If you're doubling value, if you're growing value, you're good. It's all going to grow value, though. It's all going to grow in value. So it's just, okay, let's do the maths on that. So it's 1.6 turned to 3.2 turned to 3.2 turned to 4.
12.8
turned to 12.8. There's your kicker.
Yeah.
There's your kicker. So it should have sold for 12.8. Don't believe me? Let's look at DY.
Yeah, sure. Let's get some. Should we use 3 Arthur, Mark?
Yeah.
It's not going to be on RP data just yet. I'll just have to grab
Hasn't
up.
hasn't
Yeah.
sold for. We need something that's actually sold. So, do you know what, have you got, if you've got your phone there, let's just plug in some suburbs, some desirable suburbs. And I'd love if anyone wants interaction on this and wants to know their suburb, how it's performed, let us know. But okay, let's look at Rose Bay as an
Yep.
example. Jeff Luby, you know these figures well. It's just, the purpose of this exercise, guys, is that people often are beating themselves up because they think that the expensive suburbs are doing better than the cheaper suburbs,
Yep.
and it's quite the opposite. Don't I guess there's a couple of reasons why is I think that there's more people with that amount of money, so there's more competition, so there's more big mozzie, so there's more growth that's in there as well. So let's if you got your phone there, it's
Yep.
probably going to be do it on your phone.
Yep.
Bring up trends, and let's bring up Rose Bay on trends with houses the last 10 years. Off the cuff, I'll start talking about it before you bring the
Yep.
proof up.
Yep.
While you're doing that, it's Rose Bay's probably done about 60% in 10 years. Now, I know these percentages sound fractional, but when you're compounding $500,000 double in 10 years, which is $1 million, double is 2, and double is 4,
Yep.
that 50, 60, or 70% really matters because you're compounding on every 10 years.
Yeah.
So if I look at how are you going for Rose Bay there?
Rose Bay, Mark, 75% in 10 years because it had a big year in the last year, up 8.1% in the last 12 months. So
Is that
Rose Bay,
houses or units?
that's houses.
Okay. How much?
75, just over 75%.
Great. Let's look at Double Bay.
Double Bay. Double Bay. In the last 12 months, up 5.4, and in the last 10, 97.9.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty
Let's look at St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. Again, 98.4%.
10 years?
10 years. Yeah.
Let's look at Fairfield.
Fairfield, 10 years, 74.9.
Fairfield, done not good. That's houses?
Yeah, that's houses
Yep.
as well. Yeah. Units are
Houses.
up in the last 10 years in Fairfield, 51%.
Okay. Interesting, because it's a suburb that hasn't had a lot of stock change. What about the DY? I think Luke's brought up a really big one in what he's just said in his comment, that the affordability, the amount of actually people that want to one can afford and two desire to be in that suburb is very, very important. And I think we've seen that particularly lately with sea change and tree change. But I'm really looking at that long shot, that long term. Every single property that I've seen that's sitting in that sort of higher price range has been punished.
Yeah.
Every property that's been in a desirable area in the affordability price range, it has actually done probably the best.
Yeah.
Probably the best. So it's all about, guys, it's all about getting into a suburb that's got that affordability. It's all about getting into a suburb that's got that desirability, and don't get caught up in the wank or the lux, because
Yeah.
you can see from that example that we just gave you, over 30 years, that particular property, and I can give you thousands of properties that are just like that.
Yeah.
You're behind the eight ball by one, not 1 million, not 2 million, not 3 million, not 4, but 5 million. It sold for 8, that property,
Yeah.
and it should have been more like 12.8 from if it doubled over that period. So the guy, there's 5 million left on the table. You've slept on your money, and the money hasn't
Yeah.
performed in luxury property.
And you've probably put a hell of a lot into keeping that property just up to fair and average nick as well. In the meantime, I wonder how it's just under an acre. It's
Yeah.
9,000 square meters. Maintenance on something like that would just be on another level. So that's something that's just going to be tearing through your cash, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
To maintain that over that, you're right. To maintain that, there's got to be millions there as well.
Yeah.
Good point with Luke. Price also depends on how many properties are built with. That helps with appreciation. And I'm really passionate about that. When you look at some parts of Sydney, Parramatta, Chatswood, they've multiplied their stock. If you look at DY has gone from 9,800 units from 8,900 units, say, over 40 years. So
Yeah.
it has changed the amount of new units in that suburb, not even by 5%, 10%. When you're looking at these numbers, so it's like, you know what? When you look at more what's around the Supercentre and Moore Park, like those sort of areas there, they've gone from 5,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 units in that precinct,
Yeah.
over a 10 or 15-year period. Stock's going to hammer the value of your property if there's a surplus or too much of it coming on the market. So try to stick around low stock availability suburbs.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, Mark, where did you think that the median house price for DY was sitting after what we've had this last year we've had? Where do you think it was? Because I know you had a candid
92?
conversation. 96.6.
Yeah. And
96.
you know what? You can't forget this, guys. Big lesson. Everyone is saying the market's cooking. Some people are saying the market is overheated. When that figure hits 100% over 10 years, that's double.
Yeah.
So everyone thinks this is this most amazing market, but it still hasn't doubled over a 10-year period. It still hasn't. So
Yeah.
until it does that, I don't think it's a raging and phenomenal property market. And even when it exceeds that to 110, 120, we've just been playing catch up.
Yeah. Hey, Luke's just commented saying about Alexandria, Zetland, Mascot, Nightmare suburbs. I wonder from a long-term investor standpoint, if you buy into somewhere like Alexandria, close to the CBD, at a cut price, long-term, do you think it's still going to be a good investment if you can afford the cash flow of that investment whilst rents are lower in those suburbs, things like that?
I'd index it back to stock availability.
Yeah.
If they are gonna keep dropping stock into that suburb, I don't think it's a good one. I think definitely Luke's spot on. There's a glut there, but I think logistically, it's actually a very cool place to live. Like, it's close to the city, it's close to the airport, it's close to, it's relatively drive to beaches. Bit of a drive, but you get to beaches. It's pretty cool. West is close, so, but there's just too much stock, and that's an issue that I have with some parts of Queensland and Melbourne. I've got to be careful because I know Luke loves his Queensland, but that's an issue that I've got for sure. Those suburbs.
All right, Mark, I think that's a wrap.
Have a good day.
Thanks, man. You too. Thanks, guys, for coming on, Luke and Jeff and everyone else. We'll see you later.
See you, mate. Take care.